All right. Today we have David Schuchman, and David has his own company called Princeton Technology Advisors, which is focused on information technology services and training, and he's a management consultant. He's got a number of roles as a facilitator, including executive chair of the professional service group of Mercer County, Princeton, New Jersey, co-facilitator for New Jersey job seekers in Princeton, and several other groups similar to that. And he is a common speaker for a variety of different kinds of groups. And when I saw him on a list of having spoken to other FENG chapters, I said, Charlotte, this looks good. So what can we do? And so Charlotte arranged for David to be here. You will be able to see his slides as he proceeds. He will probably provide more guidance. You're welcome to pop questions into the chat, but we will also, he will have some planned intermissions for Q&A as we go. So David, thank you so much for being here. We're excited about it. We have a lot of folks that are considering or are in those private, standalone gigs. So timely topic for this season that we're in with all that. So welcome. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Charlotte. Nice to meet everybody. Nice to visit Nashville, Tennessee. So always enjoy the opportunity to meet some of the folks at the different FENG groups. And so let's get right into this. We're going to talk about working as a consultant. Excuse me. And for a lot of us, it's really going to be an alternative potentially to what we traditionally think of as permanent full-time employment. Now, this could be your permanent full-time employment. And so that's why we will talk about that. And it's kind of based on my story, how I went from a corporate career of 30 years in technology to becoming an independent consultant. Just want to let you know a couple of caveats or things to be aware of. I am not an attorney. I'm not an insurance rep or salesman. I'm not a tax professional. So just be aware that we're just friends talking to friends. That's what we are here. So some of the legal, insurance, and tax information we will cover. It's based on what I learned along my journey. I'm happy to share it with you since we're friends talking. You will probably need to speak with your own professionals in your network to talk about a situation specific to you. So just wanted to make sure. And a little about me, I'm going to rush through this because Mark really covered it. I am an information technology consultant. My company is Princeton Technology Advisors. I had a 30-year career with several companies, a corporate career, lost my job in 2012, lost my second job late in 2013, and I took my career in my own hands by starting to work on independent projects. And we do all manner of information technology, websites, project management, and technology implementation. And as Mark mentioned, I'm active in the job seeker support community. And if you're interested in visiting Professional Service Group or PSG of Mercer County, we meet each Friday Eastern Time. Right now, virtual. It will be hybrid next month as well. psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. And when I can take a minute, I will put that in chat as well. But let's get into this. So what is the gig economy? Companies now are beginning to hire independent consultants and temporary workers for specific projects. And that specific project is the gig. And so that's kind of what the gig economy has become. It's become a bit more cost effective for companies to work that way. The gig workers, potentially you and I, we're the independent contractors or contract firm employees. You could be employed full-time by a consulting firm. You could be a part-timer assigned to temporary jobs, flex jobs, or these specific projects. And by the way, the context of this presentation is really more of being a bit more of an independent contractor, because there's a lot more that you need to learn about that. It's not hard, just you may not be exposed. When you are working for a contracting firm, you're an employee. You get your W-2 and all that. So we're going to talk a little bit more from the perspective of the independent contractor, but I'm happy to answer questions of all those. And for a lot of us, this could be the future of work. This could be the way that we will continue to work in the rest of our career. So keep an open mind, and I guess that's why you are here to think about it. And so what is a consultant? Well, you're basically someone who provides some sort of skills or service or advice or expertise to other people, and you do so professionally. In other words, you get paid for it. And generally, you're someone who works under a fixed contract, a contract that says what you're going to be doing and for about how long, and for a specific project. And so the bottom line as a consultant, you're a hitman. And I'm from New Jersey, and these are the most famous hitmen in New Jersey. So I thought I would just highlight them, certainly. Besides, I enjoy the Sopranos. So let's talk a little bit about differences between being an employee and being a consultant. And if you've spent your career so far being an employee, some of that will resonate very clearly. Let's kind of contrast it a little bit to a consultant. Typically, when you're an employee, you receive benefits as part of your compensation, medical, dental, vacation time, all those things, gym memberships, whatever your company is offering. Now, typically as an independent consultant, there are no paid benefits, right? You have to kind of consider that as part of your rate, and we'll be talking about rate later on. Some of you may not have known, actually in the FENG group, you probably all know that your employer pays half your FICA or federal taxes, which includes Social Security and Medicare. But as an independent, you pay all of those employment taxes, 15.3%. So one of the benefits you get as being an employee rather than a consultant is 7.65% of your federal taxes paid for you. You're paid by a paycheck when you're an employee. So each pay period, that could be weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, whatever it is, you get a paycheck, a pay stub, hopefully direct deposit. In the end of the year, you get a W-2 used for filing your income taxes. In your paycheck, your employer has taken out your income taxes that you've earned this year. Typically, when you're a consultant, you are not paid by a quote unquote paycheck. You'll issue an invoice, they'll send you a check at the end of the month or term, whatever you worked out, and you get paid on a 1099. And I realize it's no longer a 1099 MISC any longer. They now have a separate designation for contract workers, but it's the same thing. And you do file your taxes quarterly. Filing your taxes quarterly, if you've never done it before, is very easy. It's a simple form like this that basically has the amount that you're going to send them. The end of the year, you true up with your income taxes. So your income and payroll taxes are paid via your paycheck when you're an employee, but you will file quarterly, as I just mentioned, and of course at the end of the year, like we always do. And you have limited income tax deductions, and that's changed over the years. And most recently with the Tax Reform Act in 2018, a lot of the tax deductions we may have had as an employee are no longer available to us. So if you are having expenses for work, many of them or some of them would have been tax deductions before. Now, many of them are no longer there. But as an independent consultant with your own business, it doesn't have to be a registered Inc. or LLC. You're just independent. Your expenses can be deducted from your income, and then your taxable income is net of that. And you have a lot available. As an example, I'm sitting in front of my monitor on my desktop PC. We also have a laptop here, my desk, my printer, all that as I formed my company, all became tax deductions for me. But a home office as an employee is not likely tax deductible. Again, you will need to talk to your own tax professional to understand what's appropriate for you. So what's in it for the client? Why might they hire us as a consultant instead of hiring us outright? Well, for one thing, we're easier to bring on board and fire. It's easier to hire and fire people. You typically, as a consultant, you're not going through the HR department or the legal department or anything like that. Anything legal is probably done once when they write a standard contract. And so you're just part of the budget. It's a lot easier for them. Generally, there's no long-term commitment. As a matter of fact, you typically know there's no long-term commitment. You might be told you'll be working for 3 or 6 or 12 months on a project. Now, those of you who were formerly working full-time and now in a transition, as I was, you know, employment is no longer a long-term commitment. So, you know, it's not really much different. If the company needs to reorganize, they will. Generally, hiring is different. They're typically looking for the objective, seasoned team member. And you're thinking, well, won't they do that when they hire me as an employee? Not always, because generally when we hire, and I was a hiring manager for many years, we hire people that we like and we can work with, but we contract with people that can get the job done. A lot of times we look to hire people who we like and we'll teach them the things that they don't know. And that's along the lines of the same thing. You're making sure you're bringing on skills, technical and professional skills that the employed team doesn't have. These are people that need to come in and hit the ground running. And ultimately, it does save money for the clients, for the company, because they're not paying the additional expenses. There's no additional benefits, training, personal time off, other things. All that is built into the rate. It's known to their budget, and it becomes a lot easier for them to manage those expenses. So those are some of the reasons why, excuse me, it might be a benefit or what's in it for the client. Well, what's in it for you as the consultant? Well, there are things that could be in it for you as well. For one thing, this is very important. It will fill a resume gap. It mitigates this unemployment bias. And there are a lot of biases that are out there for people who are unemployed. You've probably heard of some of them like ageism and others. Well, unemployment bias exists. Basically, if you're currently unemployed and it's down to the wire on a position between you and someone who's working and may transfer into the company, you two being equal, they're likely going to hire the person who is working. They won't necessarily hire statistically the person who is unemployed. It's an unfair bias. I don't understand it. It just doesn't make sense. I guess someone will say, well, if David's not working now, why should I hire him? No one else will. You're usually paid more than the employees, certainly on an hourly basis. You do have other expenses that you need to account for, but on an hour by hour basis, you're usually paid a little bit more. So you can get a little bit more income. You do get a current position on LinkedIn, and that gives you a 100% complete profile. If you look at your LinkedIn profile right now, or when this presentation is over, and your most recent position has an end date, it is not current. A current position says from 2005 to present. If it says an end date, it's ended. It's not a current position, and LinkedIn does not consider your profile 100% complete. There are about 6-7 things that LinkedIn requires you to have a 100% complete profile. That's one of them. You have the opportunity to develop a more varied experience and a more varied resume, because a lot of times there are industries that only hire people that come from industry experience. But when they bring you on as a contractor, they want you for your professional experience, what you could do for them right now for the fairly short term, less concerned about the industry. So for instance, pharmaceutical is a big industry known to hire pharmaceutical people. If you want pharmaceutical experience, you may not be able to get into the pharmaceutical industry, even if you have some medical or radiology, I heard someone say in your background, but you may be able to get in as a contractor because they just want your FP&A skills right now. And also, you have an opportunity that you may not have before. Companies are typically not willing or sometimes able, in some cases, to hire older staff. There are biases towards ageism. They hire younger staff. And there's several reasons why they do it, even though some of them are completely ridiculous. But they want your experience. They want your expertise. They want the fact that you're cool under the pressure, that you've seen this and done this before. They'll bring you on as a contractor. And so that becomes a big advantage. And some people have told me in the past, actually quite a few, I don't want a contract position unless it's a contract to hire. I get it. You want the opportunity for that long-term commitment, but sometimes the company doesn't know they need to hire you until they've seen you work on contract for the last 3 months. So be open to a contract position, even if there's no promise to contract to hire. And I can tell you in about 2002, I brought on several contractors for a project that we had, an IT project. Project lasted just over a year, about 13, 14 months. When the project was over, I petitioned my boss. We needed to keep one of the consultants. He was just that good. And he wound up staying with the company for a long time. I'm still friends with Ray. So wasn't a plan, wasn't a contract to hire position, but we contracted him when the contract was, we hired him when the contract was over. So, you still may be thinking, yeah, I don't want to be a consultant. I've heard too many terrible things. So let's talk about a couple that you may have heard and see if we can kind of make you feel more comfortable. So one reason why not to be a consultant is consultants are not treated as well as the other employees. And sometimes you've heard that before. Maybe you've even seen that. Maybe consultants are not brought or kept involved with company meetings, not inviting to company parties. Maybe the employees have individual offices and cubes and the consultants are put all together in one office. So people say they're not treated as well. You may actually be treated better. I was actually early on in my contracting career, about 2013, I was hired actually for a 3-day assignment. So talk about a short-term contract. I live in central New Jersey. It was a 3-day contract in suburban Chicago. I bought my plane ticket on Friday. I was there first thing Monday morning, 6 o'clock flight to get there, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was treated very well. I met my supervisor for the day, the director of IT. He put me in the office right next to him, a nice office, plenty of room, chairs to meet people. He told me who I was going to meet. I reached out, I met to 1 or 2 of the people. The first one who walked in my office yelled at me. Do you know how long I've been at this company? I've been eyeing this office for months. You walk in the first day you get it. Boy, was she upset at me. I was actually treated quite well for those couple of days. You might be unhappy as a consultant. Well, you might also be unhappy as an employee. And if you're unhappy in either case, just move on. That's all. Take the money and run. There are unpaid administrative tasks that you may have to do. Sure, you may have to fill out additional timesheets, submit invoices and things like that. You know what? You'll get larger hourly rates. You'll make up for some of the quote unquote unpaid time. I need benefits. That's the #1 reason people tell me why they don't want to work as a consultant. I can't work if I'm not going to get benefits. Of course, my question then is, how are you getting your benefits now? Oh, it's terrible. I have to pay for my benefits. So it's not much different. The difference is you can buy the benefits because you're getting paid. You're getting paid for each hour that you work. You're not going to have to buy benefits out of pocket, out of your bank any longer. You know, it may only be short term. I need that long-term commitment. Well, folks, if you're here in this meeting, you know there is no longer a long-term commitment to being employed. And so there's no guarantee. And by the way, if you were working on a 6-month contract at $75 an hour, in those 6 months, you earned about $75,000. So annualized, it's about $150,000. Is that good money? So the short term really may not be a big issue. So you may have some reasons why you won't want to be a consultant, but we could probably discuss and mitigate any one of them to see if you can get comfortable with it. So there is our first intermission. If you've got any questions, you could put it in chat. And so J. Roy is asking, how do you pronounce your last name? Assuming that you're writing that to me and not to Mark. Schuchman. Schuchman. So the last 2 CH is like a K. So yep, it's that's the way I pronounce. Any other questions? You want to type it real quickly in chat. Of course, there's other pictures up here if you want to get your cup of coffee. I've got mine right here, or get that sandwich. Gentleman earlier talked about bagels. There's a bagel sandwich in the corner. Or if we're a small enough group, you want to quickly unmute and mute when you're done. If not, there's another intermission a little further along, and plus we'll have plenty of time at the end. How do you find clients? I'm going to hold off on that for a few minutes, Drew, because that's part of this program. Some of you may remember that spaghetti sauce commercial about ragu when they say it's in there. So it's in there. We'll talk about clients a little later. Good question. All right, so why don't we move on for now? And of course, if you have a question along the way, put it in chat. Mark's going to monitor it, and he'll just politely interrupt me when I'm taking a deep breath between bullet points, and we'll answer the question then. Okay, some of you may remember in the movies they used to have intermissions. So if I'm working as an independent consultant, do I need my own company? Do I need to register my own company? Not typically. At least from what I learned in Tennessee, it's not a requirement at all. I've done this in several states around the country. So far, I have not found that as an absolute requirement. But what if the company requires me to work for a company or a corp? Companies more and more are doing that. And the reason why, they want a legal separation between the staff they bring on as a contractor and themselves. So if there's any liability caused by the staff at the consulting company, they, the company, are not liable. The individual or the company that hires them is. And we're going to talk about liability insurance a little later as well. But if you do need to work under a corp, you've got a couple of options. One is find a colleague or friend who has a company, see if they'll hire you, and then put you on contract at that company. Do realize that even though it's a colleague or a friend, they will have some administrative costs associated with payroll and such. So you may not be able to keep the full hourly rate. You'll be employed by your friend's company. Another option is find a consulting company, approach them and see if they'll hire you and put you on contract. So there are a lot of big companies out there, Adecco, Robert Half, and others. I'm sure there are plenty in your general area, in the Nashville area, or wherever you're working. So you can reach out and contact them. Just realize that these consulting companies typically take a big chunk of the hourly rate. 50%, even a little more, is not unheard of. The reason why typically they do spend a lot of their time searching for people to fill the position, so they have to cover that time as well. You may be able to negotiate them because you're bringing them the job. They didn't have to find it. So I don't know that this is the best option, but it is an option for you. Another is, I like this option, engage with what's called a split placement company. Split placement company is essentially a professional employer. It's a company that is there to hire consultants who bring them the client. They'll quote unquote hire you and put you on contract at that company. Because that's their business, their rates tend to be, or the percentage they take tend to be much more competitive than if you work with an independent consulting company. When I was a hiring manager, I worked with consultants through this top echelon, the first one that's there. I looked for others. I found one called NPA Worldwide. You'll have to just check for your own, but top echelon did pretty good by me when I was working a few years ago. Or certainly consider forming your own LLC or corporation. It takes just a few weeks. And when you do, make sure you get a federal number called an EIN, Employer Identification Number. It's like a social security number for the company. And so that when you start working for the client company, you will not give them your social security number. You will give them your EIN. We'll talk more about forming companies right now. So here are some common forms of business entities. All of these are available in Tennessee. There are many, many more available in Tennessee as well. So this is we're going to have a very overly simplified discussion of some of the differences. And you're really going to need to speak with a tax professional or a legal professional to really understand this for you. But this is kind of how it was explained to me. You can simply be a sole proprietor. You're not a quote unquote legal entity. You're not registered with your local state. And by the way, I did do the little research for Tennessee, but for those of you in North Carolina or I heard someone in Oregon, I think, I'm sorry, I just don't have specific information there. You can look at your local Treasury Department website and they'll have the information that you need. But a sole proprietor, you basically just say, I'm a consultant, hang a shingle. There's no official organization documents. You're not forming anything with your state. Your liability, and so we talk about personal liability in the context of you're on assignment at the company, something you do costs the company money. Maybe you filed a report wrong or you broke something in the office and they are seeking you to make them whole, to reimburse them. So your liability is quote unquote unlimited. In other words, if you caused some sort of financial loss to the company, they'll sue you, for basically all of it. Your income shows up on your tax return on what's called Schedule C, miscellaneous income and expense. So it's very easy to account for your taxation. The next is called an LLC, limited liability company. There are different types of LLCs. We'll talk about the sole member. That's the kind I have, where I've just basically worked for myself. I did form my company, in my case, in the state of New Jersey. Tennessee has the same sort of process. The details are different, but it's available. So you do search for the name. Your company name registered in Tennessee will be unique. No one else will have the same company name as you registered. Of course, sole proprietors may. Your liability tends to be limited to the value of your company. In my case, give or take with my computer and my desk and other things, I probably have about $20,000 in assets. So if my company got sued for $1 million, they can take all $20,000. Of course, they can sue the individual on the project as well. And so Unlimited liability is not truly the case. If you are the sole member, they will come after your company, and then they may come after you personally. It's possible. Your income will also show up on Schedule C. So it's basically your personal income tax return, all of your income less your expenses, and that's your taxable income. And then there are different types of corps where you might have the INC at the end of your name. And so again, it is formed by, at least in New Jersey, it was called an Articles of Incorporations and Bylaws, but it's very similar in Tennessee as well. Limited liability works the same way. Any mistake or liability is caused by the company is limited to essentially the cost of the company, value of the company, but they can sue the employees individually. And taxation is done differently. The corporation is taxed, and then the corporation pays you an income that shows up on your personal income tax. So I don't know that's truly double tax. I don't think you're losing a whole lot more money. Your accountant can tell you. On the other hand, there are certain tax advantages to getting paid through a corporation. And so one example is, let's say your corporation is making some pretty good money. I'll make up a number, $250,000. You have to pay yourself a realistic salary. So let's say you pay yourself annually $100,000 a year, but your corporation earned income was $250,000. So there's $150,000, expenses aside, of course, that is not paid to you as salary. So what do? At the end of the year, you pay yourself a corporate dividend. It's still income, subject to income tax. And whether it puts you in a higher tax bracket or not, that's between you and accountant. But one thing that's different, dividends are not subject to the 15.3% payroll taxes. So right off the bat, you could save a chunk of money that way. Again, speak with your own tax professional to learn what may be best for you, and your own attorney to see what's the best organization for you as well. And by the way, you can start as an LLC and you can upgrade to a corp at some point also. In Tennessee, oops, sorry about that. In Tennessee, here's where you can begin to get information about starting a business. So this is from the Tennessee government website. For each of the states, I've had an opportunity to do this presentation. I found that the Treasury or Revenue departments do have this type of information. Now you can download this slide deck later. Also, Charlotte will be handing it out. This link is a live link. You can see it's turned into a hand. So once you have the PDF later, you can just click on it in case you don't get a good screenshot of it right now. And they have information for helping you set up your business. They have business assistance and training. They help you with information about insurance and income tax, different taxes, sales tax, lots of new topics for you when you're starting a new business. In Tennessee, the cost to form an LLC, it's $50 a member. So we're talking about a sole member if it's just you, but you can have lots of partners or members in the LLC. The way they charge in Tennessee is $50 a member, but it's a $300 minimum. So whether it's you or up to 6 people, it's the same $600. And then every year you renew it. They call it filing an annual report. If it's anything like the way New Jersey does it, all you're doing is paying them. There's no real report that you're finding. It's basically saying, yep, I'm still in business. And same criteria, $50 a member or $300 minimum. Let's see. So there is a question from Glenn. Any knowledge on the rules on New Jersey LLC doing business in Tennessee versus having to form another LLC in Tennessee? So my understanding, Glenn, is as a New Jersey LLC, if someone had contracted me to do some technology work for them, I am working under my New Jersey LLC. I do not need to be a Tennessee LLC. My income tax will be paid to New Jersey. And basically, I'm working in New Jersey. It may be different if the company said, I need you to be in Tennessee. I may then be obligated to pay an income tax in Tennessee, but as long as I'm working in New Jersey, and if you did it the flip way, if you were working in Tennessee for a New Jersey-based company, you would just consider yourself Tennessee. There's no obligation to form an LLC, at least not in Tennessee and not in New Jersey. Also, some people ask, does it make sense to form my LLC in a tax-friendly state like Delaware or Nevada? It may make sense for corporations. An LLC, not necessarily, because you're still taxed at your personal income tax rate. So you forming the company in another state doesn't, as my understanding, provide any tax benefit to you. Good. Oops, close that. So how much should I charge? So I've got a company now and I'm hanging a shingle. How much should I charge? Well, basically what you do is you're going to charge what we call market rate. That's basically the average price a typical customer in, your type of customer will pay for your type of consulting service. And I can tell you, I have no idea what the market rate is in your part of the country, wherever you are. Each part of the country is a little bit different, and different services command different rates. So you have to kind of find that out on your own. But how do you charge? Well, if a consultant like you might receive $100 an hour, the market rate is likely between 75 to 125 an hour. I can tell you when I first started, I had a very inexpensive, very low rate because I was trying to earn business. I wanted people to say, I like what you say, and I'll take a chance on you because you're not terribly expensive. I just wanted that in the back of their mind. So the first 2 or 3 projects I did was a very small market rate. And actually, I still have one of those clients active, and I've never raised their rate. That's probably why I'm not a millionaire. But I just respect them too much as a client. One way to get started is think about what your nut is, what you got to cover. Think of your last annual salary. Divide that by 52. That's how much you get paid by week. And then divide that by 40. Typically, if you work 40 hours a week, or if you should divide it by 35 or 37 and a half, whatever you believe is appropriate for your area. And now you understand how much you were paid in the past hourly. And that's how much you can earn or need to earn. Also, consider other costs that you may have that are related to your job. Your costs of benefits. Figure out what your benefits cost and then come up with an hourly value for those as well. Any of your extra administrative time. Do you put an extra 5 or 10% of work time in? You may want to add a few dollars per hour for that. Do you want to kind of cover your personal time off? Maybe you could divide by 50 weeks or 48 weeks, or just figure out I have to add an extra couple of weeks worth of salary, put that in as well, and you'll adjust your hourly rate up accordingly. So that's one way to make sure that you charge a rate, at least the minimum rate, for what you need to earn. Here's a website called founder.com. They even have a web page, how much to charge for consulting. Again, this is a live link. So if you don't write the link down fast enough on this or take a screenshot, you can download the slides. I'll show you where, and I believe Charlotte will be emailing them out later. And these links are live in the PDF version of the slides. So this was another website with an article that talks about some of the guidance for how much you should charge. Let's talk about errors and omissions insurance. Basically, liability insurance, is that necessary? Now, ultimately, you will need to speak with your own attorney or insurance professional to learn more about that. The common question is, how much does it cost? I'm an authority to say, I don't know. It all depends on the area that you're working professionally. I don't mean that, well, the geography certainly is different. The professional area is different. Different professions have different liabilities and so forth. The amount of insurance you want, was it 500,000 or 1 million or 5 million? So you have to put all that into it. In general, it's not terribly expensive for being a corporate consultant, but you do need to speak with your own insurance professional. But what is it? It's basically a professional liability insurance. It protects your company and their workers, or anybody that you subcontract against any claims of inadequate work or negligence. So inadequate work or negligence might be you made some sort of, let's say, reporting mistake, and in the end, the company then received, let's say, a tax fine and other, it cost them something. Or maybe you broke the copier machine. It just wasn't making copies. You kicked it, you knocked it on the side, you owe them money for that. Whatever negligence or inadequate work, it can cover you for. And who gets sued? Well, welcome to America. In America, everybody gets sued. It's one of the freedoms that we have. There are certainly a lot of liability lawsuits. So the company gets sued. And if you're an LLC, your LLC may get sued, mentioned, as well as you or any of the workers that you put on the project can get sued. So just be aware that that can happen. Do I need errors and omissions insurance? Do I need liability insurance? It's up to you. It depends. It depends on your risk level. It depends on your risk tolerance, right? So if you're working on projects that don't have a lot of risk, you're not likely to break or make a mistake, you may be more tolerant of not having insurance. Or maybe you have millions of dollars in the bank and you can self-insure. If they sued you, you just pay it out on your own, fine. That's up to you. Otherwise, you may need. Now, sometimes hiring companies will ask you for a minimum amount of insurance as well, in which case you can get the insurance policy for that period of time. Again, talk to your insurance professional to see how this potentially pertains to you. Do I need to collect sales tax? So as I was forming my company and talking with people at the state of New Jersey, this was the topic that I just found the most fun. The reason why is because as helpful as they were being, they really kind of said things that I thought was kind of silly. And in doing my research for Tennessee, and I can only assume other states are going to be kind of similar, nothing really absurd, just, it sounds a little weird, but yes, for taxable products and services, you will need to collect sales tax. My understanding in Tennessee is there's a state tax and there are county and local taxes as well, and that's the total income tax. So certainly from area to area, it could change. But if the products and services that you're offering are taxable, you will need to collect sales tax. Products are taxable unless Tennessee says they're not. That's kind of what I learned. There's some list that's out there that you can find. New Jersey, that's what they told me. And when I raised my hand and I said, how do I know what the taxable products are? All she did was send me to a website and they have to find it. So as an example, many food items are not taxable, just not taxable by sales tax. But candy, which is consumed the same way vegetables are, might be taxable. In New Jersey, it is. Services are not taxable unless Tennessee says that they are. And then sometimes when you combine these, a non-taxable service with a taxable product, the whole thing is taxable. As an example, food is not taxable. Serving food is taxable. So when they serve you food, they're taxing you for the service and for the value of the food, everything together. So there's a case where the food becomes taxable because the service of delivering it is. In Tennessee, you file either monthly, quarterly, or annually. It was actually a little unclear to me. It looks like Tennessee makes that decision for you based on how you fill out your application. So I can only assume it's probably based on anticipated income, sales tax revenue that you're going to have. If you're going to have lots of sales tax revenue, like a big department store, probably filing monthly. And if you have very little, it's quarterly or annually. I just couldn't get clarity on that. I did not go further into the process in Tennessee. And if you want more information, again, a live link. Here's a link you can get information about sales and use tax in Tennessee. And sorry, folks, for those of you in North Carolina and in the Northwest that I heard, I just don't have all of that available. But again, go to your state's revenue web pages, and I'm sure you'll find that information nice and easy. And they'll give you a certificate like this. So that's kind of nice. Hang it on the wall. Okay, our next intermission. So let's see. Any other questions?
David, there was a question, I didn't catch it while we were still talking about the types of entities. Glenn asked a question, any knowledge on rules on a New Jersey LLC doing business in Tennessee versus having to form another LLC in Tennessee?
Yep, I did see that one earlier. My understanding, if you were in Tennessee working in New Jersey or in New Jersey working in Tennessee, you do not need to form another LLC. And the income tax that you'll pay is where you are physically doing the work. So if if you contracted me, one of you, to build a website for your business, and I'm working in my office in New Jersey, I am only obligated to pay New Jersey state income tax, of course, federal income tax as well, but there's no obligation. Yep. And let's see, there's some from Kurt. My son has his own LLC for his business. He is the only employee, and yet some clients still require him to have workman's comp insurance, and he has to eat the dollar cost of that. Okay, so that's an observation. And the answer is, yeah, I've heard that before as well. Some companies will require you as the worker or the hiring company to have appropriate insurance, and they do so because it protects them. So if your son falls down on the job, the company that he's working at, not working for, the client company, will not have to pay out of their workman's comp or liability insurance for his injury. So they want that protection. He does have to eat the cost, absolutely. One thing is a tax deduction, and the other thing, he can raise his rate a couple of dollars an hour to cover that cost. And so, we can all work that way. Yep. So if you remember that formula that we had for figuring out your hourly salary, you will want to keep other costs in mind in addition to just how many work hours that you're working. In fact, that those costs across the hourly scale as well.
Hey, David, if I can add a tip
Sure.
on that as well for workers' comp, if you get in that situation, I've been in the same. You also want to watch your annual audit for your workers' comp as a sole proprietor. They typically assign a standard compensation to do your rate for insurance, but they do an annual audit as well.
Okay.
And if it turns out that you've got a year where you got less earnings versus more earnings than that standard, you can turn that in and get a break, kind of a rebate on your rate. So you just want to pay attention to that administratively every year.
Oh, great. Thanks, Glenn. Yep. Any other questions? We got the last third of the program and then we'll wrap up. Talking about the rest of the ragu. It's in there. We're going to talk about finding business and earning loyalty and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So maybe now I've shown you that it could be beneficial to you to consider being a consultant. Maybe you want to be a consultant. So right now, based on some of these things that we talked about, and these things are not hard, just be aware that they're there. You take care of most of them once and they're done. But now that you've taken care of them, how do you become a consultant? Well, this is the easiest way. And by the way, if we were all together, I would ask you to repeat after me. I've certainly done this presentation in person before. I am a consultant. And I don't know, then I would bless you or splash you with holy water or whatever is required in the state of Tennessee. But that's really all it takes to become a consultant. All these other things that we talked about, do I have to form a company? And most of them you don't have to do. But you just say, I am a consultant. You want to identify the niche in where you have knowledge, expertise, experience, and also a support mechanism. So most people, when they hire consultants, they don't hire generalists, they do hire experts. And so because they want you to come in and hit the ground running. So you need to understand the industry where you're going to be most competitive. The type of work that you do will be most competitive, the one where you have lots of experience. Support as well. When you worked as an employee, if there was something you didn't know, you probably asked a coworker or a boss or somebody in another department. When you're independent, you don't have those people directly with you. So you may need to make sure you understand who in your network or websites or other information that can give you information support when you need it. Choose and research your target market. You again can't easily be all things to all people, a generalist, when you're a company. So understand the market where you're going to work and how they hire consultants, other things that are important to them, the types of projects that they have, all sorts of things, the experiences they need, certifications, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you understand your target market so you can compete strongly there. Let your professional network know. Put them to work for you. Reach out to your network, maybe post in LinkedIn, write a blog post, send an email out. I'm a consultant. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my target market. Can you help me? Can you connect me? Maybe someone in target market was looking for a consultant just like you. And certainly let your professionals know as well, your accountant, lawyer, insurance salesperson as well. Make sure you get that support, certainly. And develop a business plan. And you don't need one of those mega thick business plans that you've probably heard about. You need one of those really big, thick business plans that talk about, you only need those plans that talk about, your revenue streams, your growth potential, rate of growth, types of clients you're approaching, work history, all that kind of stuff. You only need that if you're going after cash. If you're going after a bank for a loan, venture capitalists, all that kind of stuff. If it's just you looking for clients, your plan could be very small, a sheet or two in a notebook. just keep it handy. It's going to tell you things like the niche that I'm working in, the knowledge and experience I have, where I have support, my target market, who's my professional network. It's going to remind you of the things that are important to you for your business to keep you from wandering off, because you're going to want to make sure that you stay focused in the area where you have the most expertise. Now that you are a consultant, name and create your company. And so that's really the first step. And actually, the first thing you want to do before you get on the Treasury website or revenue website to register your company, get a web address ASAP, as soon as possible. You can create your website later, get the web address right now. And the web address, in my opinion, should be closely aligned with the name of your company or what you do. There's a woman that I know, I'm not going to describe much else right now, but I met her during my own professional networking, and she has a company called 20 Lemons. It's in New Jersey, a little bit north of me. And what do you think she does? Now, of course, if we were in person, you might raise your hand. You're happy to put it in chat if you want, but some people will say has a lemonade stand, sells fruits and vegetables, buys used cars, so whatever it is. And it's not. She's a tech company. Similar to mine, a few more services than I offer. She's really a terrific person. But the name of her company is 20 Lemons. If you just heard the name of the company, you wouldn't really know what it is. You may not consider hiring her. My company is called Princeton Technology Advisors. If you needed someone to advise you on technology, you might be more interested in talking to me, just not knowing me, not knowing her. So get a web address that closely aligns with your name. If you're thinking right now, I'm thinking between 3 and 4 different names of a company, I haven't decided yet, get those 3 or 4 web addresses. If you register your web address through Google, it's called Google Domains, it's $12 a year. It's not a big expense. So for the first year, register the 3 or 4, hold on to them. And then next year, when it's time to renew, just renew the one that's closest to your business. Why do you register your web address ASAP? When you register your company, the name of your company is in the public domain. You know this to be true because you're searching for names on the Treasury website, and you cannot have a name that matches your name. There are hackers and squatters that will go out looking for new company names and register the websites up from under you. It happened to 2 of my clients where they registered their company a few months ago. They're now ready to work on the site and start their business, and their web addresses were taken. And we knew it was this sort of thing because it happened a couple of days after they registered their companies. Get the web domain first. It's very easy to do. If you don't know how to do it, if you get stuck, give me a call. I'll help you through it. It's very easy. Develop your professional support network. Those people that I mentioned earlier that can help you in your professional support effort, in your professional work effort. It could be former coworkers and employers and your accountant and attorney. Investigate if you need any licensing or certificates. Now, certain professions do need state licensing. So do understand if in your state you need that. One thing kind of funny in New Jersey, rather in New York, a barber, someone cuts hair, needs a license, a state license. New Jersey doesn't. Not sure about Tennessee. So just make sure you have that. Certificates are different, right? Certificates are usually awarded based on education. You may have been a project manager for years without PMP certification. That's fine. Now that you're independent, the other people you're competing against may all have that certification. So get the certifications if you need to. And don't do this alone. Notice this theme. I'm repeating this over and over again. Don't do it alone. Get support. Your accountant, your lawyer, your colleagues, your friends, people that can help you. There are other organizations that can help you. SCORE, Small Business Administration, Small Business Development Centers. A lot of these offer free services. SCORE and SBA all offer free mentoring. So you may want to contact them. I do presentations like this for SCORE to help. It's a volunteer opportunity because they don't charge for it either. So you may want to look to these organizations to get some startup information. Then update your LinkedIn profile. Update your resume. You know what it's going to say? I am a consultant. Put that in there. You'll have at least a current position. So it gives you the opportunity for that 100% complete LinkedIn profile. And also, if you don't yet have any direct accomplishments or direct clients, you just started your business, the bullet points, instead of being accomplishments, can be the services that you offer. So you get those good keywords in those profiles. People can search for you. Ways to generate business. So you're a company, brand new, you're eager to go, let's get some business. Find business networking groups. Right now, the FENG, the FENG groups, these are job seeker support and professional support groups, but there are others that are out there that are business networking groups, BNI, LATIP, and others. I belong to Chambers of Commerce could as well. What's nice with BNI and LATIP is there could be a lot of these chapters in your own community. It's not just one regionally, almost like FENG is a bit more regional. You could be lots of them in your area. The reason why is each member is the only one who does that job. If you are a financial analyst, you will be the only financial analyst in that chapter. The chapter that meets down the block will have a different financial analyst. There may be a real estate agent, an IT person, a sales professional, teachers, whatever it is. You build a referral network within your group. So that can be very helpful to attend business networking groups like a referral network. Join meetup.com. Meetup.com is not the world's largest dating website. What it is, it's a online marketplace to help you find local in-person groups. A lot of the groups have stopped meeting in person and meeting virtually or hybrid, but they're slowly going back to hybrid and in person. And join groups that are within your profession. Let's say if you're an accountant or financial professional, join groups outside your profession, but maybe in the industry you want to work. So if you're a financial professional in logistics or transportation, join logistics groups, join transportation groups. You're not going to find financial people there as much, but you'll find people who may want to hire financial people in the industry. Same with LinkedIn groups, same sort of concept. Join groups within your industry, join groups within your role and profession. Attend professional associations, attend conferences. These aren't always free, so just be aware there may be fees to attend some of these. And again, the mindset is you may want to go to a professional association of like-minded people in your profession, or you may want to go to a professional association or conference of the industry you're looking to work, where you can find possible employers or possible people to contract with. That could be very helpful to you. And always keep your network active. Let them know what you're doing. They may be able to help you. Hey, David, I heard about a job at so-and-so. I know the hiring manager. They're looking for a contractor. Great. That's what I want to do. I want to let my network know. Be active on social media. Separately, there's a whole presentation I do on social media, so we're not going to deep dive at all. Actually, this is probably the only section of social media we have. I cannot tell you the best social media platform to be on because it depends on your industry. It depends on where your competitors are. You want to be in the same place they are. Depends where your audience, your clients, your prospects are going to be. You want to be there as well. You want to be where your prospects and your competition are. They figured out the best platform for you. Now that you've started developing a client base, you want to keep them loyal, hopefully, as much as possible. And that's very important to me because I do not typically work or engage in long-term contracts. I typically work in short-term projects, but have long-term relationships. My clients will call me over and over again to help them with smaller things. That's the way I enjoy working. So loyalty is very important. So you certainly want to interact with your clients in a very personable way. You want to get to know your clients. You want to understand their challenges, what their goals are, what keeps them up at night, what keeps them satisfied, challenges, all sorts of things, because you keep that information in the back of your head. And if you ever stumble across anything that could be helpful to one of your clients, contact them right away. They'll be happy to work with you because you're happy to think about and help them. Find out what other projects they might need and help with and offer support. If they don't tell you, tell them that you're open to working on more projects. Some of them, you may think it's common sense that I worked for them before. They know me, they'll call me. They may forget. So every once in a while, you have to remind them. And actually, I'm going to be reaching out to one of my existing clients right now. I do some web support work for them. I did a small web support project for one group. And I got to reach out and basically say, hey, listen, I haven't heard from you for a while, but based on this information I'm not going to give you, do you want to talk about it? Is it important to add to your website? If so, please call me. That's all. I'm not saying call me or else. I'm just getting them to think about Yeah, I may want to put that on the website. I know David can help me. I might get a couple extra hours of work out of it. Never overpromise and underdeliver. Delivering great work is really what's most important for um, developing a great relationship. You want to be that reliable person, the one that they can count on all the time. So don't just be a yes man or a yes woman. Yes, yes, yes. Do exactly what you promise, and you'll be in their fair graces for a long time. And if you can, ask for testimonials. Just ask. Yeah, usually when the project's over, they'll say, thank you very much. I really appreciate your help. And you say, oh, I enjoyed the opportunity to work for you. Would you be willing to give me a testimonial? They can put it on Google or LinkedIn or send you an email. You can post it where you want. See if you can get that, because that's free reference information. So that may be important to you. Okay. Very good. And we're almost done. I see we're at our end time, typical end time. We're almost done. Some websites for finding gigs, if you're looking for these assignments. This is one called FlexJobs. FlexJobs is a membership site at $60 a year, and they tend to have part-time and freelance and remote jobs. By the way, this blue FlexJobs, like the other blue ones, live links. So again, if you don't remember it later, or you didn't get a good screenshot, just download the presentation and you'll get the live link. Freelancer, very similar. Hosts all different types of contracts and hourly gigs. Another site that you may want to look at. Solid Gigs. For some reason, this site has tracks, I guess, the top performers or the top companies. Not really sure how or why it got that way, but these tend to be more premium sources. You may want to start there first if you want to work premium, or maybe if you feel you're very experienced, you deserve to be in the premium area, start with them. And almost all the job boards will have some sort of contract positions posted as well. So these are a couple places where you may be able to find websites. I'm sorry, jobs. What if I need health insurance? Remember, it's not a built-in benefit the way employment is. And so the health insurance typically pays for medical, surgical, maybe dental, different types of healthcare expenses. If you don't have another means, like a spouse or partner at home that you can be on their policy, here are some other ways that you can do it. Also, check with your accountant. Your premiums may be tax deductible. It's not always the case, but it may be. You can just call any insurance company and ask if they will sell you an insurance policy. This tends to be the most expensive, and it's probably an uncommon way of doing it nowadays. So it could be expensive, but you can also get a policy very specific to your needs. So that may be the most flexible for you. There are group plans that you can become a member of. A lot of times professional associations, some chambers of commerce, business and industry associations will offer their members different programs and discounts. Sometimes it's health insurance. So you can sometimes get a less expensive health insurance by being a member of a group and getting into their group plan. There's the Affordable Care Act. It was also called Obamacare. It's on the healthcare exchange. Now, some states do have a state exchange. New Jersey does. Tennessee does not have a state exchange. So people in Tennessee who want Affordable Care Act oriented insurance do use the national exchange, healthcare.gov. By the way, Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is not insurance. I'm not making a political statement here. It is not insurance. It's the guidelines for the insurers to follow. So you may get on healthcare.gov, fill out the profile, and look at the insurance that is available in your state. There's different levels, and some give you lower premiums and less coverage or more deductibles. You have to find the one that's right for you. If you're very low income, you may be eligible for Tennessee's Medicaid. And here's a link to TennCare, which is their Tennessee Medicaid. Yeah, Medicaid is state managed, not national. If you're age 65 or older, sign up for Medicare. Actually, it's kind of an obligation to sign up even if you don't use it. There are other supplemental plans that are available. You will need to talk to an insurance professional. If you are in a family situation and you're 65 and older, but the other members of your family are not yet 65, they're younger than 65, they are not eligible for Medicare. Medicare is for age 65 and older. So you may have to get Medicare for yourself and maybe the national exchange for somebody else. COBRA, if you recently left your former employer, you may be able to buy insurance through them. And your premiums may not be a business tax deduction. It all depends on how they contracted or how you paid for the premiums out of your salary previously. So you have to look into that. COBRA tends to be expensive, but you get the same coverage that you had when you were employed. It becomes an important option as well. Just looking online, upwork.com. Yep, Jay Roy. Yeah, I just ran out of space, couldn't put all of them there. Maybe I'll swap one out and put up work on my next presentation. Oh, and here we are. We are wrapping up, and then we'll have our last Q&A. So as we wrap up, consulting, it's an alternative to permanent employment. It may be an alternative that's right for you. There are pros and cons to becoming a consultant. Certainly as an independent, some of the pros, it can fill a gap on a resume. So if you've been unemployed for 3, 4, 5, 6 months or longer, it fills the gap. You can develop a variety of experience. You can make your resume and LinkedIn profile a bit more robust, where you may not have been able to as an employee. And you'll certainly get paid, and maybe even more than as compared to being hired. And you may have the opportunity to be a contractor to hire. You may ultimately get hired. You don't need to become a corporation, but you can. And you can declare, I am a consultant, and get yourself started. To find the slide deck, it's on my website. So my website is princetontechadvisors.com. princetontechadvisors.com. Now, the website does not have these red arrows, but on the menu on top, you click on the workshops tab, and this is the page you will see. And at the bottom, recently offered programs. Then you click on that, another page will open, and you will see this is the very top slide deck. All of my slide decks from all of my presentations are there, including a couple of versions of this from other states. And I apologize, I don't remember if I did this for North Carolina or not, but if I did, it will be there as well. So any other questions before we wrap up? I know you went, let's say about 10 minutes long, Mark. I appreciate the flexibility, but I wanted to make sure I can cover all the information for the people that could stick around. So any other questions, folks? Let's see, this in chat, there's, okay, yeah, and if you want to quickly unmute for your question.
Go ahead if others have questions. I don't want to miss out, but just unmute and speak up. But I'll go ahead and take the time to thank you, David, for joining us. I know we will have access to you through the content that you've provided and the access that you have. This is good, practical information for us to consider. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us this morning. And just as a reminder, we'll have some more discussion around this, the consultant environment. I know that has become a very popular topic during pandemic seasons. And so a lot of folks are interested in that. So we'll have a similar topic next month. And as mentioned by Britt, we are in the process of making that a live in-person / hybrid WebEx event. So it'd be a little slightly different format. The details for that will be shared with you in time, and for you to be able to join us on that. So feel free to go ahead and go to the FENG website and register, get on the list, so we make sure we share with you all the information. David, thank you again. Charlotte, thank you for being behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. Boy, that was tongue twister. Behind the scenes. There we go. I probably, that other state was more for me. So I gotta break the ice somehow or another, and I wish I'd done that on purpose. But anyway, just for the fun of it. But anyway, David, thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. I appreciate the involvement from other chapters that gives us a more rich environment to be able to share and learn from each other. So thank you all. I hope to see many, if not all of you, next month, July the 19th, same time, same station, just a different website. And then also we'll be live at the LBMC facilities for those of you who are in this area or happen to be in this area at that time. So thank you all again. Charlotte, I'll speak with you briefly just at the end. I appreciate, again, David, thank you so much. And I suspect others will be following you as we move along.